Imagine you're flying at 35,000 feet above the ground. You glance out the window and admire the clouds below. Everything seems normal. But then you notice something strange. A tiny hole at the bottom of the airplane window. It's so small that most passengers never even notice it. Yet without that tiny hole, every commercial flight would become far more dangerous. So why is it there? And how can something so tiny play such a huge role in keeping millions of people safe every day? Let's find out. The mystery of the tiny hole. First, let's clear up a common misconception. Most people think airplane windows are made of a single piece of glass. They are not. Modern airplane windows actually have multiple layers. Typically, there are 3 transparent panes. The outer pane faces the harsh environment outside the aircraft. The middle pane acts as a backup safety layer. The inner pane is the one passengers can touch. And that tiny hole? It's usually located in the middle pane. Engineers even have a name for it. It's called a bleed hole or breather hole. But why would engineers intentionally put a hole in an airplane window? The answer lies in one of the greatest challenges of flying: pressure. The incredible pressure difference. At cruising altitude, airplanes fly extremely high. The air outside becomes very thin. In fact, there isn't enough oxygen for humans to survive comfortably. That's why airplane cabins are pressurized. The cabin is filled with air pressure that mimics conditions much closer to the Earth's surface. This keeps passengers safe and comfortable. But here's the problem. Inside the cabin, the pressure is much higher than outside. Imagine inflating a balloon. The air inside pushes outward against the balloon's surface. The same thing happens inside an airplane. The cabin pressure constantly pushes against the windows. And the force involved is enormous. Every flight subjects the aircraft to tremendous pressure differences. Without proper engineering, windows could fail. The secret job of the bleed hole. This is where the tiny hole becomes incredibly important. The bleed hole helps regulate pressure between the different layers of the window. Instead of allowing all the pressure stress to affect multiple panes equally, the design directs most of the pressure load onto the strongest outer pane. This ensures that the outer pane does most of the hard work. Meanwhile, the middle pane remains available as a backup safety layer. In simple terms, the tiny hole helps distribute pressure exactly where engineers want it. Without it, the window system would not function as effectively. It's a brilliant solution. Simple, tiny, but extremely important. Preventing fogging. The bleed hole has another surprising purpose. It helps prevent window fogging. Have you ever noticed how your bathroom mirror fogs up after a hot shower? That happens when moisture condenses on a cooler surface. The same thing can happen in airplanes. Temperature differences between the cabin and the outside air are massive. At cruising altitude, temperatures outside can drop below -50 degrees Celsius. That's colder than many places on Earth ever experience. The bleed hole allows moisture to escape between the window layers. This reduces condensation and helps passengers maintain a clear view outside. So the next time you're admiring clouds from your seat, thank that tiny hole. It's helping keep the window clear. What happens if the outer window cracks? Here's a question that sounds scary. What if the outer pane cracks during a flight? Surprisingly, airplanes are designed for that possibility. Remember those multiple layers? Even if the outer pane develops a crack, the other layers provide backup protection. Aircraft windows undergo extremely rigorous testing. Manufacturers expose them to pressure cycles, impacts, temperature extremes, and other demanding conditions. Safety is always the priority. This layered design is one reason commercial aviation is considered one of the safest forms of transportation in the world. The tiny bleed hole is actually part of that safety strategy. How often are windows tested? Before an aircraft ever carries passengers, its windows go through extensive testing. Engineers simulate years of flight conditions. They test pressure changes repeatedly. They expose windows to freezing temperatures. They test resistance to impacts. Some tests are so extreme that they push components beyond normal operating limits. Only after meeting strict safety standards are the windows approved for commercial use. So while the tiny hole may look insignificant, it's part of a highly engineered system designed by some of the world's best aerospace experts. Conclusion: the next time you're sitting on an airplane and looking out the window, take a closer look. You might spot a tiny hole near the bottom of the pane. Most passengers ignore it. Many never notice it. But that tiny hole helps manage pressure, prevents fogging, and contributes to the safety of millions of flights every year. It's proof that sometimes the smallest details have the biggest responsibilities. And in aviation, even a tiny hole can make a huge difference. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more fascinating facts and mysteries hidden in everyday life. Thanks for watching.